There was a guy in my high school who cut a square hole into the trunk lid of his car and installed an actual hibachi grill in it. Built-in, permanent. The car could grill now. And I need you to understand something. In the parking lot where that car lived, this did not make him a lunatic. It made him a visionary. Because walk with me through that lot in 1986. Steam rising from at least one hood before first period. A station wagon wearing body panels from 3 different donor cars. Something over there, we're not sure what it is, held together with a bungee cord and no one's asking questions about it. The best car in this entire lot, the one that gets envied, would be by today's standard a completely average used car. Every single vehicle out here is a junker. But parked among them are 3 legends I'm going to show you today. The hibachi car, a dented van with comic book sound effects painted on the side, and a white Pinto. Yes, that kind of Pinto. With sheepskin seat covers that turn out to be the heroes of this story. I know your school had their own versions of these cars. This is a love letter to the Gen X first car. The most dangerous, most broken, most randomly patched together fleet of vehicles ever assembled in one place. And the strange education that came with the keys. Alright, first I have a confession to make. I didn't get access to a car until I turned 17 a year later, in 1987 when I got to borrow my dad's Pontiac Grand Prix. He lent it to me at nighttime when he was done with work. Now, a 1987 Grand Prix, it's not a bad car, but it was long, black, with chrome, and it looked like a Cadillac. But it didn't really match my dad's style. He would get a new company car every 2 years. And for some reason this year he got a real flashy car, so it was kind of funny to see this businessman driving this car that really didn't fit his personality. So the reality is I never owned a hardcore junker car in high school, but obviously a lot of my friends had junker cars, so I got to experience it that way. But yeah, they were junkers, they broke down all the time, and I think they built character. It taught you how to figure things out, how to MacGyver things together. Overheating wasn't like a shock or a crisis, you kind of expected it. Everyone drove around with a jug of water in their trunk or in their back seat. You just pull over, let your car cool down a little bit, maybe pour a little water over the engine to cool it down even faster, and then just add some water to the car to keep it going for a little bit. The dead battery was a normal thing as well. Some cars had a dead battery all the time, so if you had a stick shift, that was a good deal. You could park on a hill. Then every teenager knew the protocol. We would have the car parked at the top of a hill, so when we were leaving a concert or a high school football game, we could push the car down the hill, pop the clutch, and get it running that way. Other cars, to drive straight, you'd have to turn the wheel to like the 2 or 3 o'clock position. And gauges didn't always work in your car. You could run out of gas and it showed it was halfway full. Mufflers would announce you from 2 blocks away. Smoke coming out of all sorts of places. Smoke came into your car, you're hoping for the best. Brakes were questionable. But none of it kept it off the road. If it moved, it was used. If you didn't drive a junker or ride in a junker a lot at some point in your Gen X teenage years, you're kind of missing out. Now to the 3 legends. So now I'm going to just describe some of the legendary junkers we had in our high school. There were so many of them, but these just come to mind. So let's first talk about Larry. Larry had a junker car, and we knew it, but he's like, hey, I got a new grill on my car. And so we're thinking, why would you even waste any money on that? But then he takes us out to the parking lot. We walk around to the back of his car. So Larry had cut a square hole in his trunk, placed a hibachi grill in his trunk, and then welded the top of the hibachi grill to that opening. So his car could grill now. I'm sure this was not legal by any standards, but, honestly, driving these cars anywhere should not have been legal. It was super dangerous. I'm not even sure how we survived. So let's talk about the next legendary junker. A guy in my high school inherited a dented van, and it was kind of one of those 70s vans. So maybe he got it from an uncle or something like that, and it had carpet on the inside. It was kind of cool, but it had dents all over it. So instead of making it a dented van, he kind of made it a feature. So he put in the style of Batman TV show fight scenes where it says pow, kapow, slam. He painted those right where the dents existed on the side of his van. When we'd ride in it, people loved it and thought it was hilarious. So we just kind of, rolled with the punches. You take your junker and make it kind of cool. That van understood something the hibachi car also understood. If you can't fix it, caption it. And car number 3 was my best friend's white Pinto. For the younger viewers, the Ford Pinto is famous for exactly one thing, an explosive fuel tank. The fuel tank design made it prone to catching fire when it was hit from behind. They even made fun of it in movies. This was a defect that produced lawsuits and massive recalls, and I'm not even sure why his family was allowed to drive it, but heck, like I said, if it ran, we drove it. And he got comments and jokes every single time that we drove it and rode in it. It seemed like everyone knew that the Pinto had a really bad reputation. It had a really bad suspension as well, so if he hit the gas and timed it with the brakes, he could kind of alternate between the two, and it looked like he had hydraulics. So we had this just junky Pinto with this fake hydraulics. It was hilarious. So he got this car for his birthday, and 9 months later for Christmas, he got sheepskin seat covers. I'm guessing the sheepskin covers cost more than the car. I bet you that car would have retailed for $400. And his driving philosophy was really simple. We just really tried not to get rear-ended. I tried my first cigarette in that Pinto. I had my first sip of beer in that Pinto. It's so nostalgic just thinking about it. And those sheepskin covers came in handy. I remember going to a party Friday night in high school, and it was kind of a big deal because I had the SATs the next day. My friend talked me into it, peer pressure, so I gave into it. But we go to the party, and it's running late, and we didn't want to drive home because we wanted to be responsible. The party was right near our high school. So we pulled the sheepskin covers off the seats, walked to the high school, and slept in the middle of the field in these sheepskin seat covers. But here's the bad part. The SATs started at 8 in the morning, and by the time we woke up, there wasn't time for me to go home. So I went into the SAT test wearing the same clothing, super tired, and took the SATs. I'm sure I would have done way better if I had a full night's rest with the SATs, but I did surprisingly well and was able to get into the college that I wanted to go to. But I would not recommend it. As a Gen Xer, we all have memories like this, just the shocking things we got away with because we were unsupervised and it was hard for our parents to track us down. But here's the reframe, because this video isn't really about cars. Every Gen X driver became a mechanic by necessity. You could jump a battery, change a tire, top off the fluids, diagnose by sound and smell, perform the push start on a stick shift, because the alternative was walking and nobody was coming. These cars broke down constantly, which meant we were learning nonstop. That's what being resourceful looks like when you can't afford anything. The junker was a canvas precisely because it was worthless. Nobody customizes their nice cars now because they have something to lose. Our cars came pre-ruined. We had total freedom. But here's the honest part about these. These cars were genuinely dangerous. They had no airbags, questionable brakes, bald tires, and just imagine these on the freeway going 55 miles an hour. You're just multiplying everything by 10. Kids today drive 10-year-old Honda Civics or Subarus with functioning everything and airbags in every direction, and that's better, full stop. But I have nostalgia for these junky cars because I don't see anything on the road that remotely looks as dangerous and old as the cars that we drove.